Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 214 of Bill Man the Sport Guys podcast. I'm your host, Bill Man the Sports Guy. For the latest weekly news of the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and college sports, this is the podcast to be. So, this might be a really short episode today because not a whole ton has happened, but we do have a few baseball trades and possible a couple few other news. So, let's go to the two that happened recently. The first one up being the Seattle Mariners have acquired first baseman Josh Naylor from the Arizona Diamondbacks in exchange for Brandon Garcia, left-handed pitcher, and right-handed pitcher Ashton Izzy. So Izzy and Garcia are both pitching prospects that I think could help out Arizona Diamondbacks in the long run to be a competitive playoff team because the Diamondbacks have been kind of a disappointment to say the least, and Josh Naylor is the first domino to fall. And I also don't expect the domino to completely fall for the Diamondbacks because Eugenio Suarez, is he going to get traded? What about Zach Gallen? What about Corbin Carroll? We don't know yet. So from the Diamondbacks standpoint of view, while it's clear they're not going to make the postseason this year, but if they quickly retool, because it hasn't been that long since they last made the World Series back in 2023, and if they do it right, by so far getting the two prospects is a plus. I think they'll get back to playoff contention. Now, as for the Seattle Mariners, they desperately needed a hitting first baseman, and Josh Naylor's the perfect one to go. He will be a free agent, so let's see if Seattle does intend to try extend him. We don't know if that's going to happen yet or not. So, adding Josh Naylor to a very interesting Seattle Mariners lineup, I think the Seattle Mariners can give an interesting push and run for the 2025 postseason. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on that trade, which if you ever want to let me know your thoughts and opinions, you can always let me know on Twitter at BillmanSports. I know it's called X. We're going to call it Twitter because that's how it was back in the OG days. Instagram at Billman Sports Guy, and here on YouTube at Billman Sports Guy. All right. The second baseball trade we're going to talk about is Ryan McMahon. Breaking news. He has been freed from the the Colorado Rockies. Wow, there's a blooper. Anyway, Ryan McMahon, the Colorado Rockies have let him free. He is going to go to the New York Yankees. In return, there's two undisclosed prospects. So, we don't know yet in return for Mr. Ryan McMahon. And for that case, Ryan McMahon in a New York Yankees uniform. Oh, here we go. Never mind. I have the prospects they're going to get in return. Colorado's going to get left-handed pitcher Griffin Herring and right-handed pitcher Josh Gross. So this is interesting. Griffin was ranked lefty Griffin Herring. Yeah, Herring was ranked 8th in the Yankees prospect system. And Josh Gross, pitching depth, but we all know what Colorado and the altitude, the pitching in Colorado tends to get a little bit of a fluke. So we'll see how those two pan out. Now, as for Ryan McMahon, he's got a good glove. We know he can do well with the bat. He had a 20-plus home run season not too long ago. So adding him to a powered New York Yankees lineup, although we'll see how they're going to be because Aaron Judge is out for a period of time at the moment and at the time of this recording. I think Ryan McMahon, another lefty bat, that does help the Yankees a bit. And with his defense at third base, this will truly help the Yankees. Now, is it enough to contend for a World Series? But adding McMahon, I feel like the Yankees, we should basically expect them to be in World Series contention. But I will admit, by the way they're playing lately, that's almost an absolute no-go. All right. Then the other baseball trade we're going to talk about, Adam Frazier's going back to another team that he's very familiar with in the Kansas City Royals. Now, infielder Cam Dinavie, that's really it. The Pirates, this team needs serious help building around Paul Skeens, and I still stand by that. And Pittsburgh blowing up the team once again, and this is not enough for Paul Skeens. I feel so bad for him, but I'll be the first to admit Cam Dinavie, I've never heard of him. I don't know his style of play, so I can't really comment on him. But as for Adam Frazier, eh, 255, OPS below 700. Not what he once was when he was making contact easily, hitting above 300. So it's just a meh trade in both, in my opinion. All right. Blake Wheeler has announced his retirement from the NHL. He's played with the Boston Bruins, the Atlanta Thrashers when they were still a hockey team back in the day, Winnipeg Jets, and the New York Rangers. Blake Wheeler, easily one of the most solid left wingers that I've ever saw play in the game of hockey. Even when he was with the Jets, he was always one of their best players. So congratulations to Blake Wheeler on a massive, awesome NHL career. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Paul has signed with a team. He is going to the Los Angeles Clippers on a 1-year, $3.6 million deal. The Clippers, it was interesting that they added Chris Paul back to the team, but will it be enough for them to get over the hump and win the World Series? Or not the World Series, gosh, the NBA Finals, the NBA Championship. I don't know, because I still look at the Celtics. I would not sleep on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Don't underestimate the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Minnesota Timberwolves or the Minnesota Frauds, they could potentially be the real deal. I can't comment on that part. I would also watch out for the Houston Rockets. So adding a veteran, Chris Paul, gives him good veteran health, and I think he'll do pretty well with the Clippers. All right, before we go, actually, there's two more things I want to talk about. So NBA, I just found out this the other day. So the NBA has been fighting against management and implementing rules like the minimum games play requirement for players to be eligible for awards. But did you know these are some of the wildest times that a player has missed a game? Most ridiculous did not play excuses in NBA history from what I saw. DeAndre Ayton failed to join his team due to icy roads, and the thick ice was blocking the roads and left the Blazers without a double-double threat. But the Blazers still managed and won 105 to 103. Tim Duncan, the Spurs tried to put him under management, and that kind of upset him. But they termed it as old, which I don't know what the Spurs were thinking at the time, but they still beat the 76ers 93 to 76. Paul George once missed a game due to too much caffeine. Rajon Rondo was at a birthday party. And OG Anunoby, household chores. Very interesting, to say the least. But anyway, let's go to the last part that I want to talk about, and this came out just as of recently. Cleveland Guardians closer Emmanuel Clase has been placed on disciplinary leave. So basically means that he hasn't been suspended, but they're going to put him there because he's under investigation due to as part of MLB sports betting. So if he did bet, the question is, what kind of suspension is he going to get? And same with his former teammate, Luis Ortiz. If the Guardians lose Clase to a long period of time, then they're in a ton of trouble. I will say that. Because the Kansas City Royals got good pitching. Minnesota Twins, good pitching. I know the White Sox have been bad, but they're kind of trying to start to build up pitching. They have a few pretty good bullpen relievers. And the Detroit Tigers have the best pitcher in baseball, and Tariq Skubal. So if the Guardians lose Clase, what should they do? I'm curious to know. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on that. And that is all for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to episode number 214 of Bill Man the Sport Guys podcast. I'm your host, Bill Man the Sports Guy. For the latest news of the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and college sports, this is the podcast to be. Stay tuned for episode number 215. Peace.